Hello everybody, welcome to Technique Tuesday. Today I'm going to show you how to make this really cute, quick and easy collar card. You can see how it's called collar because that's what it looks like. It's using the new Merry Bold and Bright suite out of the Holiday Mini catalogue, and it's just so cheerful and fun it had to be shared. So without further ado, I'll show you the ingredients. As always, of course, down in the description box below there will be the dimensions and instructions and any pertinent information that you'll need to reproduce this card. But without further ado, let's get started. So it's using a piece of Granny Apple Green cardstock, and it's cut at 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25, and then fold that in half. Fits into a standard size envelope. I just like to always give my seams, creases, an extra press with the bone folder. Then we need 2 pieces of 5.25 by 4. One is just basic white and one is designer series paper. They're both the same size because one's going to fit on top and then it's going to flip open. You need an extra little piece of white to stamp. Well, for the card that I'm making, I needed a little piece of extra white to stamp this little guy on because I cut him out. If you stamp straight onto the paper, of course, you don't need any extra. And then you need a little piece of the extra coordinating colours to cut out of circles. And just so you know, I used these circle dies. Some people have theirs numbered. I don't, but just for reference, it's the inside one and the next one out on what I would call the bigger sizes. And then on the smaller size of the scallop, it's the second one out. I mean, you can mix and match and try them, but just so you know, those are the sizes that I personally had used. So what we need to do is bring in the paper trimmer because we need to line up. Just have to stand up, so I'm going to be a little bit closer to my camera. You need to line it up at the halfway mark, and this is 4.25. So half of that is 2 5/8, and then close down the paper trimmer, and we need to go from the 2-inch point. The cutting blade will just pop in 2 inches. Oh, hold on, because that's not actually set in the right place. So we'll line it up at 2. It's always better to measure twice and cut once. That's my dad always used to say. So 2 5/8, make sure it's butted up nicely against the edge. Put the cutting blade in at the 2-inch point and cut to the top. So you've now got a 2-inch cut in your paper. This paper cutter can go off to one side. And then what we need to do is fold this back like it's going to be the collar. And the easiest way I found to do that, you can line it up in your paper trimmer if you want to, but I just found finding where the 2-inch mark is and lining up my ruler to the outside edge. Sometimes it's just easier to have something slightly darker underneath so you can see where the outside edge is. So you line it up with the 2-inch point and the edge of the designer series paper and just press it. So it gives it a slight crease in that area. And then we'll go back and do the other side. So you go to where the cut is, line it up with the opposite corner and just give it a bit of a crease. It's just to get it started. And then when you come back to it, you can actually give it a press. I don't use my bone folder when I do this. I want it to have more of a rounded fold rather than a really sharp crease. It just gives it a little bit of extra depth. So there we go. If you look at the original card, you can see how the shape is coming along. And then what we need to do next is attach it to the piece of white. Now it's the same size, so you do have to be careful when you're lining it up. And I would suggest that you use liquid glue for this part because it just has a little bit of extra give. You can use, you know, your adhesive of choice, but I just find when I do it, if I need to move it slightly, if I've used liquid glue, there's a little bit more give. So just a little bit up to the points, not too much because you don't want it to squirt out into your open area. I'm actually just going to bring in a a silicone mat, just in case I miss and there's a little bit of glue gets on my work surface. It's just going to wipe really quickly off the silicone pad. So as you can see, it's lined up on this edge, it's lined up along the bottom, so pretty successful. Let me tell you, when I'm doing these by myself, that don't always go quite as easily. Sometimes I have to squidge them around. So just, you know, disclaimer, I'm feeling quite smug right now. Woohoo, look at me. But it is easier, a little bit easier to line up, like I say, if you've got the silicone mat. So now we've got the base of the card and we know it's securely taken care of. We can go ahead and stick it onto, oops, the card base. And I'm just going to use the rolling adhesive for this one, oops, because it's a little bit faster. So we'll put it on a layer just as usual. So that's quite easy. So there we've got the bases of the card. Next is to stamp the little guy that we wanted. So we'll take him out, and I'm using the new Festive Fun. And I'll pop him onto the acrylic block and using the Memento black, just stamp him onto a piece of cardstock. Easy peasy. And while I'm doing the stamping, I'm going to stamp the greeting. And the greeting I wanted, which I felt went really well with the theme of this, is a really old retired stamp. And it came on wooden blocks way back in the day. In fact, I think I wrote the copyright date of it from 2002, and it was all year cheer #1. So what we're going to use is the Merry and Bright. And what I did was I took all of my wooden stamps, or most of my wooden stamps, off their wooden blocks, and you can buy in the catalogue the clingy stuff that makes the cling stamps, well, cling. So we'll pop that on there, and we're going to use Poppy Parade. So while we've got this little piece of white out up at the top, I'm going to stamp the Merry and Bright, and that will get cut out with a circle. So close the ink so we don't get any of that. Pop this one back into here. If you're interested in how to do this, just shoot me an email and I'll send you the directions. It's really quite easy, but I had lots and lots of really heavy, bulky wooden stamps from, you know, I started stamping in 1997. So now they're just in the same kind of slimline DVD cases that the polymer stamps and the new cling stamps come. So what we need to do now is go ahead and give our chap a little bit of colour. So I'm going to use the light crumb cake. The colour is Antlers. I love this card because it's got a Christmas pudding on it, and Brits are very fond of their Christmas pudding. Well, you either like them or you don't. I happen to be a Christmas pudding lover, so this is very exciting to me. So I'm going to take the pecan pie, the dark one, and colour the pudding. A couple of, oops, need the bullet end. A couple of dots of the red so the berries show up. Green for the holly, and then we're just going to colour his sweater, his jumper, green. Then I'll actually just use, I want to give a little bit of shading and blend, and then his body is going to get coloured in with the lighter pecan pie. The nice thing about the Stampin' Blends is you can colour and they all go in together. Sometimes if you try to colour with regular markers, you can see the stroke lines, not so much with these. And then last but not least, I'm going to use the crumb cake again, and I'm going to do his hooves. So there we go. Now, I did do another card in this, and it uses Zany Zoos, and Zany Zoos happen to come with a die set. Very unfortunately, this one doesn't. So I had to fussy cut it. And rather than you sit and watch me fussy cut him, there's one I made earlier. Same guy, I just went carefully around. You can see more when it's on a darker surface. I just went carefully around the outsides. And there he is, and popped some dimensionals already on the back of him. This circle would get cut out with the circle die. Poof, it's one I made earlier. And as I mentioned, the Granny Apple Green and the shaded spruce. Ta-da! Lots of blue Peter. Here's one I made earlier today. So here's the card as it stands. So what we need to do now is build up the greeting. So we just put them in layers. And then what I'm going to do is get my dimensionals and put a dimensional on each side of the split. And take the backing paper off. When you stick them over, it just lifts up the card and gives it a little bit more of a pop. And then I'm going to put this guy on with dimensionals too, but what I need to do for that is put one on the card so we know where that is, and then the other ones around, I'm going to put one on the top and the bottom of that circle, making sure I've got it mostly upright. So we'll quickly take off the backing papers. Oops. And the one off the card, of course. And then we know when we put it down, it's going to be in the right place. And it just leaves nice dimension for the card. And then the last little piece is to take off the backing of the dimensionals that I stuck on again a little bit earlier. And what I did was down the edge, once you've used all the hexagons up, you get these lovely edge pieces. I literally just cut those out and pop them down his legs. Oops. Come on, off you come. So there we go. And then he gets to go in here. What I also have are some awesome shiny dots. They are iridescent adhesive backed discs. They're not sequined, they're just flat, but ooh, they add so much fun. And of course they're in keeping with the suite because that's where they came from. So we'll just match the ones that we've got on here. We'll have a Granny Apple Green one and a Poppy Parade one and a lovely Pool Party Blue. And I just think they give a lovely little piece of extra bling to that. So there's the two cards that are the same that we've made. The other one, like I said, I used, this is Zany Zoos, and Zany Zoos come with a die. Same concept. In this instance, you'll see I used the decal circles, which is a new item in the holiday mini catalogue. I used the Bright and Beautiful. So this is Merry, Bold and Bright. This is Bright and Beautiful. There's lots of brightness. There's lots of beauty going on, but it's the same concept. So he's just stuck on with dimensionals, a few little sequins around, and you get the same kind of card. Just one's a bit more Christmassy, of course, a bit more holiday, and one's just a birthday. That's them, quick and easy, like I say. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe. If you ring the bell, you'll get a notification when I've posted more of my videos. I like likes. I like people to share. If you would share me, that would be the biggest honor that I could think of. And last but not least, thanks so much for watching.